My games have been feeling a bit boring lately, samey, for me to run, so my players are definitely feeling it. I need to shake things up. So let's talk about how some of the most famous GMs in the world and their players keep their games unpredictable. And I want to start with Brennan Lee Mulligan. Apparently, Brennan thinks about Ma a lot, and I removed a "your Ma" joke from the script here just because it seemed disrespectful. Ma is actually a Japanese concept that means space between. When Brennan talks about Ma, he talks about it in a cinematic and narrative sense, but it has a ton of different meanings. A lot of it relating to architecture and design. When you put two objects in a room, that is great, but the space between the objects is also important. If they're too close together, that evokes a feeling. If they're too far apart, that evokes a different feeling. Brennan talks about this in the absolute goldmine that is the Variety interview of him and Matthew Mercer, and he talks about it specifically related to the filmmaker Akira Kurosawa, who made a ton of movies in the 1940s and 50s that I was forced to watch in film school and have since forgotten all about. But one thing I do remember is that feeling of space between Ma. It's a very tangible thing. In those movies, samurai would duel, and there would be a ton of space between the two duelers. The camera would cut to very wide shots to show it. And that space was so important because it told you so much. How far these samurai had to travel to hit each other. Could they do it? How far away they are from each other figuratively, morally. But more importantly, it just gave the viewer a feeling. The composition of the shot added to the beauty and to the tension, and Brennan, specifically in this interview, references in these movies where something would happen, like you'd get shots of it raining, and then just before a big battle, the film would go out of its way to show the rain stop. From rain to movement and sound to no rain, stillness and silence, to like a huge battle. And the in-between is the Ma. It's the space between. And you see Brennan do this all the time in his campaigns. It's what he's doing in Critical Role, where he whispers, gets quiet before something big happens. And it creates a flow, an unpredictable pattern that is not just, I'm doing the same thing all the time. And honestly, this concept of Ma in storytelling in general, it goes really deep. I could talk about it for hours, and I'm not qualified to talk about it, if I'm being quite honest. But to keep it to like these simple D&D terms, it's just that idea of creating space between, and that space meaning something. But to make it actionable for me and you, let's just put it in a very simple term. Doing the same thing for too long, bad. Let's say you are narrating poetically and beautifully non-stop all session, then that's great, but maybe occasionally flipping it on its head and talking very casually for a few minutes can make the poetic narration feel even more heightened. If you have a huge combat that's lasting hours, maybe a flashback scene in the middle of it to something like really emotional and peaceful could raise the stakes of the whole thing even more. It is contrast. And most of all, it's just a pattern interrupt, which I've talked about before, which is just a hard cut to something completely different to snap your players out of. Let's talk about Dungeon Masters, the new AP which is doing very well right now. And Jasmine Bula is a fantastic GM, but I actually want to talk about her players here, specifically Neil Newbin. And the reason I'm talking about a player in this GM-focused video is because the more I do this, the more I'm realizing that great player advice is great GM advice. And vice versa. We just talked about Ma, and players can totally use that same concept. Also, when you see a player in a game doing something super cool and interesting, it is because the GM is enabling it, and probably has talked about stuff like this and encouraged it in the past. Players are often a reflection of the GM in a similar way that the GM is often just a reflection of the players. Though there are, of course, exceptions. You can have a problem player and that doesn't reflect badly on you as a GM. But if the GM plays a certain way, it definitely affects how the players play, and Uno reverse. And I love how Neil is playing in this AP. I think in episode 1 he has a hook shot, a grappling hook thing that he created himself, his character created, he's a tinkerer, and he pulls it out asking permission from the GM, who is okay with it, and rather than saying how the item works, he says his character has never tested it before. Here's how it's supposed to work, but it might not work as intended. What a great way to make the other players and the GM be like, oh, this player just created a moment of uncertainty. He's about to use an item and none of us know how it's going to turn out. And this is kind of what you want to be doing as both player and GM as much as possible. Well, there's such thing as doing this too much, but certainly if you ever feel things are getting stale in a game, create a moment of uncertainty. In this scenario, if memory serves, Neil and Jasmine, in the moment, come up with a roll to see how this will work. They create a chance of failure, but also the chance of something really cool happening, as Neil's character tries to grapple himself onto a roof. This, to me, is what exciting D&D is all about. Moments where both the players and the GM don't know what is about to happen, and the dice are pretty much in charge. And to make this even more exciting, of course, set the stakes beforehand. When a GM says, okay, we'll see if this succeeds. If you get over a 12, you manage to do the thing no problem. Under 12, you're going to wake up the sleeping dragon. And if you get that one, you're going to plummet 100 feet into an abyss and take 10d6 damage. When you lay the stakes out beforehand, that roll becomes something so much more powerful and impactful. It becomes another Mulliganism. It becomes a box of doom roll. And I've talked about it a bunch in the past too, but making rolls impactful, making them mean something, that will make your games just way more interesting and swingy and unpredictable. And on that note, on a small scale, try not to roll for trivial things, because it eats up precious time and messes with the pace of the game. Though I am about to contradict myself, because you should roll a lot if your players simply love rolling. There's no hard, fast rules here. And that ties naturally to my next point. But before we get to that, sometimes unnatural segues are what you need to keep things unpredictable. Sponsor. You know what helps make your games less predictable? Describe, the sponsor of this video. Because what screams unpredictability like really cool descriptions of just about anything you need that you can just prep to use in your game or look up mid-game? Or what about really cool battle maps to blow your players away? Or what about really immersive ambience, sound effects and music to really grab and pull your players in before you rip the rug out from underneath them? We're talking over 7,000 music, sound and ambience tracks and over 15,000 descriptions. And get this, the maps are interactive. So check it out, link in the description. Thank you, Describe, for sponsoring this video. Okay, so my next point, if you want to keep your games fun and unpredictable, just lean into what your players want to do. If you did have a player who likes to roll a lot, let them roll a lot. You can let those rolls pull and tug the story in random directions. Matt Mercer is fantastic at listening to his players and doing this kind of thing. If you have a player who likes a lot of combat, give them lots of mini combats. If you have a player who loves trying to steal everything they see, let them do it, but let there be consequences. And if you have a player who loves social interactions, role-playing with the other players, or role-playing with NPCs, allow them to do that. Give them space to do that. Create fun NPCs for them. The trick here is actually to make these things that are, fun for one individual player, fun for other players too. And there's a few ways you can do this. My favourite is by merging everything. A person who likes to roll a lot, well, let them roll, and that could lead to combat. So the person who likes combat gets their little slice of the pie, but then you can have a really vocal, very social adversary, a bad guy who keeps talking to the players, so that the player who likes social encounters gets a little bit of that slice of the pie. And oh look, that same bad guy has a nice watch on. Maybe a player could steal it if they like that kind of gameplay. Making encounters merge like this, or just making them, much shorter and lead naturally into each other, is a great way to give all the players at the table the things they enjoy often. And when you do that, a side effect is that your game has variety. You see, every player at your table is different. They all play the game differently. So just by trying to cater to everyone at the table, that means you're going to be shifting in tone and gameplay and vibes often, which stops the game from becoming predictable. I see a lot of games, even GM'd by me, start to feel samey and get a little boring because the GM, often me, tends to stick with what they're comfortable doing, what they are good at doing, or simply what they find fun. So especially if your players know you really well, they're going to start seeing the same patterns game after game. For me, it's my love of TV show structure that leads to games that, have a opening, parts 1, 2, 3, and 4, and there's like a final combat in Acts 4. Because, that's just how Buffy and X-Files episodes worked. Now, don't get me wrong, having a structure like this is actually a really good thing. And sometimes running a game that you're comfortable with, that you can control better, is better for the table than having an unpredictable game. But it's also a good thing to have an unpredictable game, because when you have a structure like that, it's easier to subvert expectations. It's easier to subvert expectations when the players already have expectations in the first place. So I'm not saying don't do things that you like or are comfortable doing. If you have a solid structure that works for you, go for it. But if you also focus on giving the players what they want from moment to moment, give the murder hobo a murder to commit, or give the rules lawyer a wild adjudication to argue about, these will just become pattern interrupts that keep the game exciting. They become the the space in between, and they will become the uncertainty that will make the game unpredictable. Your players are actually a really good tool for great storytelling, so use them, whether that's giving them what they want, making encounters specifically for them, letting them run wild with freedom, or even just asking them mid-game what they think would happen next, naturally. Where do they think the story would go? And next up, when we're talking about unpredictability in games, I have to talk about Mara Holmes, because I think she's a great example of leaving ego at the door when GMing. When games begin to get boring or stale, or you perceive them to be going that way, it's often because the GM or the players are trying too hard to hold on to what their idea of the game is. They're holding on too tight. The reality is that for a lot of TTRPGs, the fact that you have so many people trying to tell a collaborative story, and you have the randomness of the dice, it means that by their very nature, they lean on the more unpredictable side. But some GMs, and I can point at myself here again, want the game to be so fun and the story to be so good that we tend to try to be in total control of it. And once that happens, it's like bowling with the bumpers up. I think fantastic GMs leave their ego at the door. They give up control, and players do too. And it's something the whole High Rollers cast do really well as well. Don't worry about being perfect or even good, and start just seeing where the other people around the table and the dice take the story, because that will be unpredictable enough. You may even get to the point where you're like, this is too unpredictable and too chaotic. And yeah, that can happen. In that case, you need to ask yourself, how do I make my game more predictable? How do I add more structure to it? And the answer to that is really simple, but really powerful. And that knowledge is just a click away in this video here. So watch that next. Also, the other video is what YouTube thinks you will enjoy. Is it right? Does that look like something you'd enjoy? Let me know in the comments.